Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In this tutorial we're going to be working through how to create a basic dashboard in Excel using skills such as pivot tables, slices and also some charts as well to help us build this dashboard. So all of these videos we've touched on their own individual subjects in previous videos, so we'll put some links to those as we go through this video. But obviously if you haven't checked those out already, you might want to check those out after this video just to familiarise yourself. Other than that, hopefully we can go into things in a bit of detail during this video so it does make all sense. But obviously we'll try and get through this in a fairly sort of quick way so the video isn't too long indeed. So what we have is we've got two sheets. So the first one we have here is blank and we've got it titled as dashboard. And the second sheet we have is data. So this is just some random data we've generated to give us some sales information by month. So to just talk to that, we've got the country, the city, a name, we've got a date, a unit, so this is the number of units sold, and then a sales total for each of those units. So this is the data we're going to be using to help us build out a basic dashboard. Mentioned before, but just for confirmation, this is all randomly generated information, so if any of this information does at all look similar to something, is completely coincidental, so there's no copyright or any copy intended in this. It's completely randomly generated. So what we'll do is we'll jump straight into the dashboard and show you how we can go about building out a dashboard here. So what we're going to do is we'll go straight in and start putting in a pivot table. So the benefit obviously of pivot tables, so that helps summarize the information that we have. But pivot tables won't be featuring in the dashboard itself. We'll keep them out to the side just so that we can keep or limit the stuff on the dashboard to just charts and slices. So what we'll do is we'll just go over the far side here, and I think I've probably got enough space here if I go to column P or go to column O, and all I'm going to do is go insert pivot table and just to select all the information that we've got here in columns A through to F. And what I might just do as well is just scroll to the bottom of our data just so that we haven't got any blanks that we need to filter out. So I'm just going to literally just do that now. So the area I've selected is just the whole of the data. And when we're working with a dashboard, a really good sort of practice to use is to start quite high level with the information you're summarizing and then gradually get a bit more granular so there's a bit of a story to tell with your dashboard. So our information is quite geographical. So we've got two countries, the United States and Great Britain, and then we're going to summarize the sales for each of those. So what we might start off with is just having the country summarized to show you how many are in each country. So to do that, we'll bring the country down to our rows. And then what we'll then do is we'll literally just bring back country into our values, just so we can see how many we've got per each. Actually, what we'll do is rather than having a count, we'll bring in the sales total. That's better, isn't it? So we can see what the total sales per each country was. And now that we've got that information, all I'm going to do, having clicked in the pivot table, is go to insert and insert a chart. And I think I'll go with a pie chart for this one. Just a basic pie chart, and there you go, you can see it's been inserted on the screen now. And what we're going to do is just tidy up this chart slightly. So we'll just go right click on these buttons you see here and we'll do hide all field buttons just to give us a bit more space, and then we can keep our legend. Cool, and we can keep our legend, and what we'll do is just move that across just so it gets a bit less of the space, and we can shrink this down. And let's just increase the size of our pie chart ever so slightly. And then we could give that a title, and we could call this Summary of Sales by Country. So very simple little pie chart there, and it just gives us the summary overall. And then what we might do is just add onto this some data labels, so you can see them there. And let's just go over to our pivot table once more, and let's just change the formatting of these numbers we've got here. So what we need to do is go into value field settings, number format, and we'll change it to a currency, and we'll go with US dollar is the first one that comes up, so we'll leave it as US dollar, but obviously you could change it to whatever currency is applicable to what you're doing. And you can see that's just updated for us here as well. What we might want to just do based on the color selection we've got is just make this white so it stands out a bit better there. So there we go, we've got our first chart. And what we could also do as well is, if I just go into the legend options, So if I just go into the legend options, we can choose where we actually want to display them. So I'm just going to put them at the bottom. So there we go, we've got to have a rejig of our little chart, make it a bit bigger in the height, and then we can put this chart back in the middle there. And there we go. And as you can see, as with everything, it just takes a bit of playing around just to get everything to where you want it to be. So there we go. So we can see straight away we've got a very simple little pie chart there, which shows us this total sales by country. So that's that first part. The next bit we're going to do is bring in another summary. So what we can just do is copy this pivot table we have already. Oh, copy the pivot table, and we'll put it into column R, and we'll paste it over there. So that's everything nicely done for us. Let's just make this a bit bigger so we can see. So the second thing we might want to do is now look at what the sales are by city. So obviously it gives us that next level down. So all we need to do is go back into our pivot table, and we can see our field list up here. And this time, rather than country, we'll bring city down as well, but we'll just remove country from that. So you can see that how they all look, all the total sales look over by each city. And to represent this in a chart form, we'll just do it into a a bar chart. So let's just go over to the side again. Ooh, and click within the data, go insert, and this time we'll do a bar chart. Very simple like that. And you can see we've got it back into here. So let's just get rid of our field list and that area there. Bring our bar chart over to here. Let's just remove these field buttons. Perfect. And also what I'm going to do is, I haven't put these pivot charts, or pivot tables should I say, further enough away. So we'll just do an insert there. And then we can bring our chart into here. And then we bring that across. I'm just going to hide or remove that. It's because we don't need what that total is. There's only one of everything. Make our little chart a bit bigger, wider. And we could even make it a bit smaller as well. So do that. And let's just make this pie chart a bit same size as well. Perfect. What we're then also going to do on our chart is give it a title. So as we've done with the pie chart, let's do a summary of sales by city. And then let's also do add our little data labels onto there as well, so we can see what the values are. And also a little trick I'm going to do is get rid of these grey lines, what are called grid lines. So if we just go into the format grid lines, and then we can go to no line, you can see it just tidies that up ever so slightly for us as well. So far in our summary, we've got a summary of sales by country, we've got a summary of sales by city. So we can now look down to see what else we want to summarise by. So also what I'm going to do is just add a row at the top here. And then what we can do is we can just tidy up a bit of a header here for us as well. So we'll just bring in a little line up here. Let's just do a border. Let's change our colour to maybe something like this, a blue. Go an outline. And we'll call our summary table. Let's just bring another column in there. Insert. And this will all become apparent. Well, no, we can do it like that. And then what we'll put in here is we'll do summary of sales, we'll just call it. But obviously you call this title anything was applicable to the data you're using. Do that, make that a bit bigger. And you can see we've now got a header for our summary, or for our dashboard even, should we call it. And then what we can also do as well is just make our text go into the middle there, just using these buttons here, just indents the text slightly so that it's not so obscured right over the corner so you can't really see what it's showing. So as we've touched on, we've got now a summary of sales by country, and we've also got a summary of sales by city. So another thing we could look at, because we've got date available to us, is to do a summary by date. So all we're going to do is back over to our pivot tables, and we'll just take a copy of these, and we'll paste that into column Z, like so. And it's also worth mentioning, you notice we're putting a lot of pivot tables in here, and obviously the charts at the moment. And what we're going to be doing is we will be bringing slicers into this in a moment. So hopefully that'll then make it more clear while we're just putting everything in first, and then the slicers will allow us to sort of jump through the data, obviously more easier. But we will get to that. So if you're wondering why we're just only adding loads of stuff in here first, then the slicers will be coming up at the end. So what we're going to do is just change this. So we'll go back into our analyze and our field list. And this time we're going to bring date in. So we'll get rid of city. Cool. And we can see that everything's been summarized as April, May, and well, all of our dates do fall into April, May or June. That's the only 3 months we have. What we're going to do is insert a chart once again. So let's go for one more bar chart. And then we can see the information for us here. Oh, and then if I move this out of the way. So sometimes I'm actually on a bit of a small screen here today. So often it's good if the bigger screen you have, the better it is for seeing the information that you're trying to populate. But I'm just going to quickly pull this in here like this. And we'll do the usual, get rid of that. We don't want that there because we're only using one. We can get rid of hide all field buttons. Let's add our data labels once more so we can see the values. We'll also get rid of our grid lines. Format grid lines, no line. And lastly, let's just pop a table on here so we can do a summary of sales by month. Cool, so we can see how they look there. And then the last one I'm going to bring in terms of summary is we'll do by person. So obviously we've got a number of individuals who are the salespeople doing these sales. So let's just show who they are and obviously who did the most sales. So if we just bring this in one more time, copy, paste it over to here. And then this time what we'll do is bring our analyze field list. And then what we can do is get rid of our date. And let's just bring name into there. And obviously we can get rid of months as well. Cool, so we've got quite a few names in here. So what we want to do now is summarize by the top 5 salespeople. So by that, who was the one or who is the individual who sold the most, followed by the second, third, fourth and fifth individual, just so we can get a summary at a high level. So in order to do that, if we go into our row labels here in the drop down and we go to more sort options, and then what we want to do is go ascending, because we can go into here. I actually want to go descending, and we'll do it by sum of sales total. So then we can go OK. And we can see there's a few people who've had the same values. But nonetheless, what we'll do is then summarize this, value filters, and we'll go, let's see what we've got. So 1, 2, 3. So let's say everything that is 156 and above. So let's try and do that. So we'll go value filters and we'll go greater than or equal to 156. Go like that. And you can see, even though all our values are similar or very similar, what we can at least achieve here is we can see a small concise view of obviously our overall sales so that we can see who our top salespeople are. So that at least gives us some information to summarize now. So what we can do is go insert, and we'll just do a slightly different chart for this last one, and we'll do a bar chart, but let's go one on the 2D bar on the side here just to summarize that information. And then what we can do is, as you'll notice, this chart is automatically populated showing us in theory smallest to largest. So if we just right click onto our axis and we go format axis, and then when we go down the side here, you can see we've got categories in reverse order. So depending on what version of Excel you're using, and sorry I should have mentioned this earlier in terms of versions, you might get slightly different format when you right click or click on these options. What you might get is a pop-up, what comes, rather than these options on the side here. So if you do receive that pop-up, we're looking for exactly the same tick box. So in this example, you should have the option on that first option that comes open to go categories in reverse order, and then you can see them in the order that you see here. And I'm just going to close these so we can get back to our page. We'll remove the total. We'll also remove the axis because we don't need that. We can kind of see pretty much by using data labels. We'll then also remove all our field buttons on the chart. Let's do our add data labels. So this should be coming quite familiar with you now. We'll get rid of the data grid lines, format grid lines, no line. And then for the total, we'll put sales by colleague. Okay, so that's the simple little graph we've got there. And then what we'll do is bring this one back over to the side here, and we'll drag that into our little spot we've got at the bottom here. Oh, and then drag down. And hopefully that'll just fit into this space nicely. There we go, just move the chart area ever so slightly. And then let's drag that into here. And then we can just make that not so wide. And then what we could do with this date as well, we could probably reduce that down in size ever so slightly because we don't need it to be that size. And then take a bit of space up with this one. Okay, and then a top trick we have, what we're going to show you now, is obviously when you're trying to align information and charts together, it can be quite hard to get them exactly the same or start in the same position. So what we can do is if you select both the charts that you have and go into your Format tab, you'll see this option at the top here for Align. So if you select Align and do Align Top, everything will, or the two you have selected will align together at the top, so it gets them in the same position. So a little quick top tip there for you as well. But as we scroll up, and if we just get rid of this top bar, if we hide our ribbon, yeah, we can see a bit more on the page. So this is our really basic dashboard that we have. So we can now see what our total sales summary was by country, so United Kingdom versus United States. So we can see the majority of sales were in the United Kingdom. We can now go across and we can see obviously each of the cities where our sales were happened. That's all perfect information. We can come down here, we can see like summary of sales by month. So we can see the months and where the sales happened. So the majority of our sales were happened in June. And then lastly, we can see who the total sales were by colleagues. So we had Lucy Johnson over the top here, who had £180 or $180 in sales. And there were quite a few people that also had the same at $180. So this is great information, but it shows us high levels. So this is where we now want to bring in splice or slices so that we're able to now cut into the data and see things at a more lower level or go focus on stuff that's only in the UK or US or a particular city. So in order to do that, all we need to do is just get our ribbon back. There we go. And this time what we're going to do is click on one of our pivot charts, or pivot tables, sorry, and go to Insert. And we should also have the option for Slicer. So if we go over to here, it should be around about the middle of your screen in the ribbon if you're using a different version, but for us it's just here. So what we need to do is select that. And this is where it now asks us to enter obviously all the different slices that we want. So for each of these that you tick, you'll get a different slicer entered. So for us, I think we're just going to use, we'll use 3 different slices. So we'll look at country, city, and date. So we'll go country, city, and date. You go OK. And you can see those 3 slices have been inserted for us. And what I'm going to do is take them over to the left-hand side over here. But before doing that, let's just make a bit more space. So let's just insert another column. And now let's try that again. So let's take over country. That will fit into there somewhere. And then we can reduce the size because we don't need it to be that big with only 2 countries. We can then bring in the city, just like that. And then we'll also bring in the date. So we'll put the date down the bottom here. Just like that. Perfect. So this is now looking like our more complete dashboard. And one last thing, sorry, that we need to do is just make sure that these slices are going to impact all of our pivot tables. So to do that, we're just going to right click on the slicer, report connections. And you can see at the moment we're only operating on pivot table number 2. And we have a total of 4 pivot tables. So we just need to make sure that all these other ones are ticked, so that when you make a selection in this slicer, it's going to update all of our pivot tables we have. And we're just going to do that again to city. So we'll go to report connections. And then lastly, we've got date at the bottom here as well. So let's just do that one. Report connections. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then let's just get rid of our ribbon at the moment so we can see a bit better on our page. So this is how our dashboard is looking. And the reason for using these slices is so now we can go into here and we can say, great, it's nice to see all this information overall. But let's say we want to look at just the United Kingdom. So if we select the United Kingdom, you can see everything updates for us. So now we have the summary of sales by country is just going to be United Kingdom. The summary of sales by city is just going to be the cities in the UK. And the same for summaries of sales by month. It'll just show us the month. And again, it'll just show us the sales by colleagues in the bottom right corner who are based in the UK. So our Lucy Johnson is still the highest there, 180. And it now looks a bit more meaningful because she stands out quite as the leader with 180, with the next person down to $168. Oh, and we can just get rid of that error message what we had there for some unknown reason. And alternatively, if we want to then get our filters back on, or we can look at the United States. So if we just click to United States, everything is now updated for our United States. And we can see because it shows us in our ledger here. And we also have the city selections here for us. So if we now want to go down to one of these particular cities, we could select, say, Memphis, and you can see that that's updated into our summary of sales by city. There is no colleague information at the moment because they obviously don't appear in that high bracket that we put in there. So what we can do actually is we could come over to our pivot tables, and we're saying, well, this is not really quite working for us now, so let's just actually let's go back to our slicer. We'll remove the filter from country and remove the filter from city. We'll then go back over to our summary over here. Ooh, and then we can go here and we can go value filters. We'll get rid of those, but we can leave it ordered. So now if we go over to Memphis, so United States, and then we go to Memphis, you can see we've got some clear information there that shows us those sales. So this is a better way to have it. Obviously, the reason we filtered out at first is because if we get rid of all this information, you can see it's looking very busy in our total sales by colleague. But actually, it's not a bad thing. It just allows us to have a bit more flexibility when we start filtering. And the last one we have here as well is dates. So we can actually select individual dates if we wanted to. So we could see what on that individual date what happened. So we've got the 10th of June there. So we can see that there's $80 of sales in the United States, of which they were all done in New York, and they were done by Pamela Taylor. So obviously some really good information that we have there. So just cautious of time and not to take this video longer than it needs to be. This is a bit of a, so we say, a whistle-stop tour of how you can create a basic dashboard in Excel, using your pivot tables, pivot charts, and obviously the slicers on the left hand side. The benefit of doing dashboards like this is it gives a real flexible page for anyone who needs to sort of go through the data if you're sending it to someone else, or alternatively if you're doing a presentation and you need to report back on how things are looking. Building this in Excel is obviously quite quick. You can soon knot one together, and that allows you to go through and answer any questions that the individual has. Obviously makes it a lot more better when you can go into, say, like Edinburgh is now selected, and we can see all that information for Edinburgh. Whereas if you just do a standard chart or just use filtering data, you're a bit limited, and it obviously doesn't look as professional as well, does it? So we hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please do give that video a like. It'd be greatly appreciated, and it really does help us out. If you haven't already, please do subscribe to the channel and make sure you hit that bell notification so you're notified of all our future videos as they come out. If you do have any questions or any sort of requests for future videos or anything you'd like us to touch on again but maybe in a different form, please do leave us a comment below this video and we'll get back to you and obviously factor that in to see if we can do a video about it. Alternatively, there's links to our Facebook, Instagram and our website in the description for this video if you'd rather get in contact with us there. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.